My name's Philip, 35 years old, and if you saw me on the street, you probably think I've got it all together. I work as a manager at a mid-sized tech company, nothing too flashy but decent enough to keep me busy. And boy, am I busy. It's like I never catch a break. The constant meetings, emails, deadlines, it's the same grind every day. Weekends don't really exist for me anymore, because even then I'm answering work calls or trying to sort out some last-minute mess. My life has become this endless loop of spreadsheets, client calls, and stress. Hobbies? Not really. I mean, I've tried gym, reading, even picked up a guitar once. But honestly, I can't keep anything going for long. My job takes all my focus, leaving me too drained to care about much else. So when I need a release, when I need to just escape from all that pressure, I do the one thing that's guaranteed to make me forget about work for a while. I go clubbing. Once or twice a month, I'll hit up some random club in the city. It's a habit I've developed over the past few years, nothing too excessive, but enough to blow off steam. There's something about the energy of those places, the lights, the music, the people. And yeah, sometimes I drink a little too much, get a little too reckless. Maybe it's the alcohol, maybe it's the atmosphere, but when I'm there, I'm not just looking to talk. I want something more. That's when I really let loose and I don't hold back. It's a strange contrast. By day, I'm this professional guy in a suit, always composed, always in control. But at night, in those clubs, it's like I become someone else. I don't plan it, but I guess I'm just chasing that thrill, something that takes me out of my usual routine. That's how it's been for a while now, this weird double life of work and clubbing, always hoping that the next night out will bring something different, something exciting. It was just another one of those nights. I didn't expect much. I'd thrown on some casual clothes, a black button-up shirt that fit well over my body, just tight enough to show I wasn't out of shape, paired with dark jeans and boots that could handle the messier parts of the night. The club I picked wasn't exactly my usual spot, but I liked switching things up. The vibe was usually hit or miss, and this night, it felt like a total miss from the start. Could tell it wasn't going to be one of those wild nights as soon as I stepped through the door. The music, pulsing through the speakers, was just loud enough to make conversation at shore, but not good enough to make you want to dance. I took a deep breath, letting the bass beat settle in my chest as I pushed my way through the sweaty bodies on the dance floor. The air smelled like that familiar blend of cheap cologne, spilled drinks and sweat, a scent that signaled a typical night out. I made my way over to the bar, ordered a whiskey on the rocks, and started scanning the room, not expecting much. The crowd wasn't anything special. There were a few women who looked like they were having a tough time in their heels, swaying slightly as they tried to keep up with the beat of the music. They looked weak, not physically, but in a way that screamed disinterest and exhaustion, like they were only there because they had nothing better to do. Their eyes flitted around the room, not really focused on anything, barely registering the people around them. I could tell they were just going through the motions, maybe hoping something exciting would happen, but not actually putting any effort into it. It was a vibe that didn't match mine. And then there were the men. A couple of guys at the bar, already a few too many drinks in, loudly ordering more shots and making half-hearted attempts at flirting with the women nearby. They were sloppy, drunk, and predictable. Nothing interesting there either. I sipped my drink slowly, letting the alcohol burn its way down, trying to figure out if there was anything worth sticking around for. It didn't seem like it. The whole scene felt stale. The lights flashed, the music pumped, but it all felt hollow, like everyone was just there to distract themselves from whatever they didn't want to deal with back home. I hung around for a while longer, finishing my drink and half-heartedly looking at my phone to pass the time. There was no one that really caught my attention, no one that made me want to stay any longer than necessary. My mind was already shifting to how I'd make my exit. I'd grab a taxi, go home, and call it a night. Maybe it wasn't worth coming out after all. Just as I was about to head out, that's when he appeared. I was walking out, phone in hand, about to pull up a taxi app when I noticed him. Bernard. That was his name, though I wouldn't learn it until later. At first glance, he was the kind of guy that immediately turned heads, not because he was trying to, but because he couldn't help it. He was young, clearly younger than me by at least a decade. Maybe 18, maybe a little older, but that youthful energy was undeniable. The type of energy that I'd forgotten about as the years piled on, buried under responsibilities and routines. He had blonde hair, the kind that caught the light in the dim club, making it almost glow. It wasn't styled in any particular way, but it had that messy, carefree look that only works when you're young and full of life. His blue eyes stood out against the dim, smoky backdrop of the club, sharp and piercing, like they could see right through you. And he was handsome, in that way that's almost unsettling, where you catch yourself staring for a second too long because everything about him just works. We went back and forth for a bit, talking about nothing in particular, but I wasn't paying much attention to the words. It was the way he looked at me, the way his body leaned just a little too close to mine, the way his hand brushed against my arm as he spoke. It was subtle, but it wasn't an accident. I could feel the tension between us, unspoken but thick in the air. He knew what he was doing. Hell, I knew what he was doing too, but I didn't mind. I wasn't looking for anything serious, just a release, just something to make me forget about my life for a while. As the conversation wound down, Bernard didn't waste time. He leaned in closer, his breath warm against my ear, and made a suggestion that sent a jolt through me. Privacy. He didn't have to say much more than that. I could feel where this was going, and I was already down for it. There was no hesitation, no second guessing. I had no reason to hold back. When he suggested heading somewhere private, I didn't argue. We made our way through the crowd, slipping past the other partygoers who were too lost in their own worlds to notice us. We moved quickly, like we were on the same wavelength, like we both knew what was about to happen, and there was no point in dragging it out. By the time we reached a more secluded area, my mind was buzzing, half from the alcohol and half from the thrill of what was about to happen. Bernard glanced at me with that same knowing smile, like he was already 2 steps ahead of me, and I didn't mind. I didn't mind at all. We slipped into one of the bathroom stalls, and the moment the door clicked shut behind us, I knew where this was going. The air was thick with the smell of cleaning chemicals and faint traces of smoke from people sneaking cigarettes inside earlier. It didn't matter. The dim lighting cast long shadows over the tiled walls, and the muffled bass from the club still thumped through the walls, but none of that registered in my head. My mind was already racing ahead. I've always known I was bi. It's not something I talk about a lot. Hell, not something I think about much either. Work keeps me too busy, and it's not like I'm out there dating regularly. But nights like these, when the alcohol's buzzing in my veins, when I'm in the mood for something more, that's when it hits me. The need to be with someone, feel someone. And right now, that someone was Bernard. I could feel the tension crackling between us the moment we were alone, the confined space of the stall only making it more intense. He didn't waste time. His hands were on me, quick but sure, like he'd done this 1,000 times before. The way he touched me, it wasn't tentative or hesitant like some of the younger guys I've been with before. No, this was different. He knew exactly what he was doing, like he was completely in control, and I could feel myself losing any sense of resistance. Before I knew it, he was unbuttoning my jeans, and I leaned back against the cold tile wall, letting him take the lead. I wasn't usually the type to just let someone else be in control, but there was something about Bernard, the way he moved, the way he seemed to know exactly what he wanted and wasn't afraid to take it. It wasn't long before he was on his knees in front of me, and as soon as I felt his warm mouth on me, my body tensed. Damn, he was good. Like, really good. I've had my fair share of experiences, but Bernard knew exactly how to work with his mouth. The heat, the pressure, the rhythm, it was perfect. There was a hunger to him, like he wanted to please, but at the same time, it felt like he was doing it for himself just as much as for me. His mouth moved over me with a practiced ease that had my knees buckling slightly, my breath catching in my throat. But just as I was starting to lose myself in the moment, a flash of panic shot through my mind. What if he's not an adult? The thought hit me out of nowhere, sharp and sudden, yanking me out of the haze of pleasure I was sinking into. He looked young. He had that youthful glow, that carefree energy that came with being barely out of your teens. And here I was, a 35-year-old man, letting some guy I barely knew do this to me in a club bathroom stall. I tensed up, my hand instinctively reaching down, grabbing a fistful of his blonde hair, not rough, but firm enough to make him pause. I pulled him up slightly, leaning forward, pressing my lips to his, not to kiss him, but to ask. My mind raced, trying to find the words, trying not to kill the moment, but I had to know. "Aren't you?" He pulled back just enough to look me in the eyes, his lips slick and red from his work, and for a second, I could see a flicker of amusement in his gaze. Then, with that same lazy confidence he had all night, he smirked and said it. "I'm 18. That's all it took." My mind eased. The panic, the hesitation, all of it melted away. I didn't care about anything else anymore. He was legal. He was willing. And God, he was good. I let my hand fall back to my side, the tension in my body dissolving as he lowered himself again, resuming where he left off. This time, I didn't hold back. I let myself fall into it, letting the sensations wash over me. Every movement of his mouth sent sparks shooting up my spine, making my head swim. The club, the noise, the world outside, it all faded away, leaving only the two of us in this little stall, lost in our own moment. Bernard didn't rush. He took his time, like he knew exactly how to drag it out, how to make every second last longer than the one before. My breathing got heavier, my fingers twitching at my sides, wanting to grab onto something, anything, but I kept my control. Barely. Time stretched out, but eventually the heat building inside me became too much. My body tightened, my pulse quickened, and before I could stop myself, I was tipping over the edge, my head falling back against the wall with a soft thud as I came, hard and fast. When it was over, he stood up, wiping his mouth with the back of his hand, that same cocky grin still on his face. I was speechless, my body still buzzing from the high, my mind trying to catch up with what had just happened. He didn't say anything, didn't need to. We both knew what had just gone down, and there wasn't much left to say. As I caught my breath, I glanced over at him, still standing there, looking every bit as confident and carefree as he had when I first saw him. And in that moment, I knew this wasn't just some random hookup. There was something different about Bernard, something that made me want more, something that made me feel like this wasn't the last time we'd see each other. The next morning, I woke up feeling something I hadn't in a long time. Craving. Not just for the physical, though that was definitely part of it, but something deeper. It was like Bernard had unlocked something in me, some hunger that had been lying dormant, dulled by years of routine and responsibility. The thrill of what we'd done was still fresh in my mind, playing on repeat. I knew one thing for sure. I needed to see him again. As I lay there, staring at the ceiling, my mind kept drifting back to the night before, to the way he had taken control, the way he had handled me so effortlessly. Normally, I was the one in charge, the one calling the shots. In every other aspect of my life, at work, in my social circles, I was the one people turned to for decisions, for leadership. It was the same in bed. I liked to take the lead, to be the one in control, the dominant one. But Bernard had flipped the script on me so naturally, I hadn't even noticed until I was already under his spell. He had that kind of quiet confidence that came with knowing exactly what he wanted and exactly how to get it. And I wasn't used to that. At 35, I thought I'd seen it all, done it all, but Bernard had shown me that there was still so much more. It wasn't just his age, though the energy of someone that young had definitely been intoxicating. It was the way he took the reins, the way he made me feel like I didn't have to be the one in control for once, like I could just let go. The thought of him made me restless, so I grabbed my phone from the nightstand, scrolling through my contacts. At some point during our brief time together, we'd exchanged numbers. I don't remember exactly when, maybe after we'd left the bathroom, maybe while we were both still riding that high, but I had his number, and that was all I needed. I shot him a text, something casual. A quick, "Hey, last night was fun. Want to do it again?" I didn't have to wait long for a response. Less than 5 minutes later, my phone buzzed, and there it was, absolutely. When, finally, the evening came. I arrived at the hotel first, checking in and making my way up to the room. It was a sleek, modern space. Clean lines, minimalistic decor, large bed in the center of the room. Perfect. I didn't have to wait long before my phone buzzed again, Bernard letting me know he was downstairs. I told him the room number, and within minutes there was a knock on the door. I opened it to find him standing there, looking every bit as irresistible as he had the night before. His blonde hair was slightly tousled, and those piercing blue eyes locked onto mine the moment the door swung open. There was no awkwardness, no hesitation. We both knew exactly why we were here. Before I could even get a word out, he was behind me, his arms wrapping around my waist, pulling me close against his body. I could feel the heat of him, the strength in his grip, and it immediately sent a shiver down my spine. He was taller than I had remembered, or maybe it was just the way he carried himself, confident, commanding, like he knew exactly what he was doing. My breath hitched as he pressed himself against me, his lips brushing against the back of my neck, sending sparks of electricity down my spine. I wasn't used to this. I wasn't used to him taking control like this. Normally, I'd push back, reassert myself, take the dominant role that I was so used to playing. But Bernard didn't give me the chance. His hands were on my hips, his grip firm but not rough, guiding me without a word. And I let him. I don't know why, but there was something about the way he held me, the way he moved with such quiet authority, that made me want to surrender. It was like he knew exactly what I needed, even before I did. I could feel the hardness of him pressing against me through our clothes, and it was enough to make my mind go blank. Any thoughts of control, of dominance, vanished in that moment. All I wanted was him. Then, without warning, he pushed me back onto the bed, his weight pressing down on top of me, pinning me in place. I wasn't used to this. I wasn't used to being the one underneath, the one being taken. But with Bernard, it felt right. It felt good. His lips were on mine again, his hands moving over my body, and all I could do was surrender to him. When he finally undid his pants, revealing himself to me, I couldn't help but stare. He was big. I mean, really big. I'd noticed it the night before, but seeing him now, in the light, in the clarity of sobriety, it was impossible to ignore. And the way he handled himself, the way he looked at me, it was clear who was in charge here. I was usually the one to dominate, but this time, I was more than happy to let him take the lead. He took his time with me, making sure I felt every moment, every touch, every thrust. His hands gripped my hips, pulling me closer to him, and I could feel every inch of him as he filled me. It was intense, overwhelming in the best possible way. I'd never been taken like this before, never felt this kind of raw, primal energy coursing through me. And I loved it. When he finally entered me, the world stopped. There was no pain, just the slow, deliberate pressure of him filling me completely, the heat of him overwhelming me. He moved with purpose, each thrust deep and controlled, making my body respond to him in ways I didn't think were possible. I could feel every inch of him, the way he stretched me, the way he filled me, and it was perfect. Every movement sent a new wave of pleasure crashing over me, making my body shudder beneath him. Bernard didn't rush. He took his time, making sure I felt every second, every inch of him as he moved inside me. His hands gripped my hips, pulling me closer to him, and I could feel the strength in his arms as he held me in place, not letting me move, not letting me escape the intensity of what we were doing. And I didn't want to escape. I wanted more. Then we switched places, and it was my turn to show how it should be done. He moaned, loud and quiet. It was incredible. I had always been the dominant one in my relationships. It was what I was used to, what I was comfortable with. But Bernard had flipped that dynamic on its head, and I found myself craving the feeling of submission, of giving up control to someone who knew exactly how to handle it. It wasn't something I had ever experienced before, and now that I had, I wasn't sure I could go back.